All right, juniors. So we've been talking about bleeding Kansas and then the Dred Scott case for like a week now. Okay. Well, all this leads up to 1858 election in which Republicans are going to dominate the North and Democrats are going to lose everywhere in the North, and in which Lincoln is really going to articulate in his debates with Stephen Douglas in Illinois what's at the heart of this whole issue, right? Of course, the evil nature of slavery. So we're going to talk today only about the Lincoln-Douglas debates of 1858, okay? And we have to understand the debates and then the subsequent election in that context of what was happening in Kansas, in that context of what happened with Dred Scott, because those things together lead to huge Republican victories in the North, okay? And of course, and solidification of Democratic control in the South. Okay, so Lincoln-Douglas debates of 1858. They're both running for Senate in Illinois. And Douglas had come out against the pro-slavery Constitution in Kansas because he said it had been based on unfair voting, voter fraud, of course, and voter suppression through intimidation and violence. And so he said he didn't care if the Kansas voters approved slavery. He wanted to make sure that the democratic process, however, was honored in Kansas territory. Okay. And that was the cause of a split within the Democrat Party. And that split within the Democrat Party was only going to intensify as a result of the Dred Scott decision and the extremity of the Dred Scott decision, not only the racist element of it, the idea that black people cannot be citizens that Taney promoted, but also the potential threat that the ruling provided to state prohibitions and restrictions on slavery, right? So in point of fact, a Southerner could bring a slave into a Northern territory, and the state could not do anything about it. And Lincoln argued that this might provide the basis for eventually overturning state laws and prohibitions on slavery, okay? Because the slave owners are arguing that their property rights demand that they be allowed to enslave other people and take them wherever they want, okay? And that the Constitution has to protect that. All right. And so the question of whether or not the Constitution protects slavery explicitly, so on and so forth, all that is set up and leads into these debates of 1858, okay? All right. Now, Lincoln's basic position is that the Constitution does not protect slavery, whereas Douglas is saying that it's left up to the states to decide. Okay. Lincoln says that what defines America is the Declaration of Independence, and in particular, the phrase, all men are created equal, endowed by their creator with certain inalienable rights, among them the pursuit of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. For Lincoln, that is the core and the heart of what it means to be American. The Constitution is there to protect those values. So the Declaration is the primary document, the central document that outlines what it means to be American. And he says that really the Founding Fathers' vision was to contain slavery in such a way that it would end. And that America is not going to fully be America until slavery is gone. And that's what the Founding Fathers intended. Okay? So it's not fully realized, Lincoln is saying, the dream of America is not fully realized at all until slavery is gone. That's his basic argument. And that Douglas, by arguing that the Constitution protects the right of certain states to maintain slavery and protect slavery, Douglas has strayed from the Founding Fathers' vision and from the Constitution itself. All right. And so Douglas's position is going to be that, well, no, the central issue is federalism, the sharing of power between the national government and the state government, and the state governments get to decide what the laws regarding slavery are, and property rights, of course, all of that. So, okay, so they meet for 7 debates in these towns in Illinois, and they're attracting thousands and thousands of people to these debates. And these people stand outside for hours listening to the debates. There's 7 of them. And they are cheering, and they're participating, and so on and so forth. Now, Douglas is going to accuse Lincoln in these debates. I mean, they both make the basic arguments, which I just went over. Douglas accuses Lincoln of being a black Republican. This was a derogatory term that Democrats used to play on the racist fears of Northerners who, may not support slavery, but who did not support the idea of racial equality, and who were unhappy with the idea of socializing with black people, or sharing equal status with black people. And so the idea that the Republican Party was black meant that it was controlled by black people, that Republicans loved black people, that they would socialize too much with them, that they were demanding social and political equality. And Douglas accuses in that day, so basically the majority don't support this racial equality, we can presume here. Douglas says that Lincoln supports the racial, political, and social equality. And Lincoln comes back and says that he doesn't. He says that his goal is not social and political equality in the sense that there's every single political right is shared. So that's a problem, right? But he says that he does support that black people have natural rights based on their common humanity that they share with white people. So he kind of, because he knows it's going to be unpopular to say he supports social and political equality, he says he redirects the conversation back to the question of natural rights, okay? And he says, however we work out this however we work it out, basically, it is not the central question. In other words, Lincoln is saying, don't worry about what particular rights or not black people will have once they're free. He says the central issue is not a political one or a social one. It is a moral issue. Now, I mean, of course, those morality is always involved. But he's trying to redirect the conversation back to the central point, which is that slavery is evil. And black people are human beings and have natural rights. And so you cannot deny them that and claim to remain consistent with American values. And so Lincoln says, look, ultimately, it can't be one thing or the other. Either the United States cannot be half slave and half free, he says. It can't be divided. It has to be all one thing or all the other. And so he says Douglas really, he's saying he supports state sovereignty, but really where this would lead would be national protections for slavery, Lincoln is arguing. Okay. And really the central question is not that political one, it is the question of the moral question. Okay. So this basic idea that the end of slavery being the fulfillment of the founding vision, the Declaration of Independence claim of all men being created equal being the center of American values. This is what Lincoln is going to use so much in his going forward in his presidency into the Civil War, building a case against slavery and to end slavery in the Emancipation, not the Emancipation Proclamation, but in the Gettysburg Address is where he really brings this theme back, okay? And Frederick Douglass supports him in this line of thought. There are abolitionists who believe the Constitution needs to be thrown out and redrafted because it does protect slavery. Frederick Douglass is not one of them. He shares in Abraham Lincoln's vision for a Constitution that is fulfilled in its protection of the Declaration of Independence, in the inclusion of black people as, of course, in the intentions of the Declaration of Independence language as having natural rights, and in the fulfillment of America being the ending of slavery, the real America being born finally. All right.